Okay guys, the idea of this video is to try and get you to flesh out a little bit deeper in regards to the traits, okay? The cortisol, the adrenaline, identifying how you respond to situations, okay? A lot of it you're going to start to see is behaviors and habits and how they stack up to end up in an extreme, either suicidal thoughts or highly successful, okay? So first of all, first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at literally the past, okay? Everything that's in our past, okay, our present and future. This is something you can do with me right now in real time. You can always pause the video right now, for example, and write this on your page and keep doing that throughout the whole video so that you get to work with it at the time. You don't just listen all the way through, okay? When we go through the traits, what we have to understand is like a train track scenario, okay? So when we're here, okay, again, if we were to imagine a human body, okay, when we're in line, okay, everything is in sync, all right? If we talk about the different parts of the body, we talk about physically the mind, okay? We have, let's call it in around, you know, our sternum as such, where we're going to feel that emotion, okay? Deep in the gut, okay? And then if we're actually grounded. So think of those four things, okay? When we're struggling, what do we really need to do? We need to ground ourselves. When we're struggling with focus, what do we need to do? We need to ground ourselves. We need to bring ourselves back again to the here and now. So many of us, as I said, when we go through these traits, for example, always on the go, okay? Always on the go pretty much is a habit and a behavior. And you're going to see that all the way through. You're going to see a lot of things is actually just habits, okay? It turns into a habit, or the habits have ended up where you now recognize with specific traits that when I enter a tough zone in my life, I reboot back. If you have trauma related, what I mean by trauma related is probably from a child, sexually, physically, emotionally abused or neglect, things like that. And even they'll study the ACEs study, which will pop up on the screen. You can go and have a look at this ACEs study. You can identify with some of those, okay? And then you can also read into it yourself on just how important, when they identified with these specific things, how it affected them in later life. Just on the trauma piece, a lot of you, when you enter certain places, you get panic attacks. Again, it's like this system that happens, okay? The external stimulus comes up, it throws you off center. Remember, it throws you off alignment and whatnot. So we speak of anxiety, okay? Anxiety is 100% a fear of the future, okay? That's what we have to understand, fear of the future. So now we go back to our traits. Again, you can pause the video anytime and you can work through it. So, fears of the future, obviously, main emotion being fear, okay? We're going to start in the top left of your article and we're going to work our way through, okay? Always on the go, generally, will be in the future in a way, okay? We can argue that it's in the present. However, our mind is usually planning what is coming down the line, okay? So we have an event coming up. We have a transformation, body transformation going on. Instead of living in the present and focusing on the smaller details of exactly what do I eat now soon enough, at the end of that day, what did I eat today? Okay, refocusing yourself all the time in order to make sure that in the future, at week 12, for example, or that wedding, that you have your results, okay? It is the very same thing. A lot of people are trying to focus on specific goals like speed training and whatever it is. Same thing. Did you get your speed trainings in? Okay, are you getting physically stronger every week? Maybe are you practicing your running mechanics and so on? Okay, so there's just a couple of goals and you will always be able to refer back to your own goals. Okay, so previous to this you would have been shown how to set goals. Okay, and they were small things just to get you thinking. So you're taking that now and you're moving it in, carrying your goals forward. Bullied easily. Okay, somebody who's bullied easily, again, it is a reaction because we have to look at self-esteem. Okay, self-confidence. Maybe self-worth would be a big one. A lot of people don't even know that they have a lot of self-worth. But how do we end up in them positions? Okay, again, our habits, our negative self-talk, okay? All of those things. Repeating and allowing somebody to constantly affect you, affected by others. If you can't take that power back, you will never be aligned, okay? The power back I'm talking about is somebody years ago, in the past, they did a certain thing. You still haven't really took that back. You may have suppressed that and moved forward. Again, you've lost a little part of your power. So you'll never fully get that back. And when that clicks with you, then you'll understand why it is so important to adopt these different behaviors and so on. Okay, a worrier, again, we've spoke about it. It's a fear of the future. We're constantly worrying of what could happen, what might come, and so on. You will not worry about what's in the past, okay? You will dwell on what's in the past, and you may hold grief, you may hold anger, and you may hold sadness about the past, okay? Shame, perhaps, embarrassment. The negative mindset piece, 100% habitual, you develop that. It felt comfortable. You may have heard and do the victim mentality. Again, it's a habit. When this scenario happens, we're at a crossroads. I want you to remember this. The basics of NLP, you're either at the cause or the effect of something. You have a choice. Okay, so when we think about it, you literally come up to this roadblock. Do you go this direction? Do you go that direction? There is absolutely no other option. Okay, two choices. That's it. Am I going to go into darkness, the way I like to think about it, and I go down that route of anger, bitterness, jealousy, envy, and holding on? Or do I go this way and I refuse? I leave it. And the further I drive this road, imagine, get a visual in your head right now. Okay, close your eyes. Get a visual. You're on a long stretch somewhere in America, somewhere in Australia, those long stretches, and the road is about to divide. It's just curving off. In which direction do you want to go? Every time you hit a tough point in your life, take a moment, bring yourself to the here and now, and make that conscious decision. If I go this road, I am the one who will suffer. And that, it needs to click with you. That is how simple it is. Okay? We make excuses. Well, a negative mindset, really quickly, again, on that. That will contribute to where we've just talked about the lack of self-esteem, the lack of self-worth, and so on. Okay? We always, again, as we'll touch on it here, we look at what could go wrong, and so on. We make excuses quicker than find solutions. Again, behaviors, attitudes that you've developed. You may have inherited conversations from your parents. You may have been around just bad company. You may have been in company that constantly talk about people. They are always focusing on everything else bar themselves. Okay? Again, pulling yourself back to the here and now all the time. Rerouting yourself. Being honest with yourself. The mind is listening to the gut. It is giving the answers. Okay? Overanalyze. I suppose the best way to describe that would be, it is a very fine line between OCD, okay, and not physically being able to control the mind. Okay. Struggle with confidence, again, obvious. Okay. Why do we struggle with confidence? But the next question is, what areas in your life do you struggle in confidence? If you're an athlete, do you just not think you're strong enough? Do you not think you're fast enough, and so on? Okay. Do you think you have the fitness to play a full game? For somebody in a job, do you think you don't have the traits to go to the next level? Can you manage people, and so on? Okay. You have to ask these questions, by the way. Okay, we will obviously be talking and we'll be posing various questions along the way, various articles, but that's the idea. We talked about it just a second ago. Look at what could go wrong and solutions rather than what can go right. Complete and utter adaptive behavior, okay? Because it's the easy option. It's very easy to give out. It feels good to some people, okay? Because we in order to do that, we have to go. I have to look at myself here, I have to be honest, and I have to maybe hold my hand up and so on. So again, these are behaviors that if you adopt them, your life will change, 100%. Defeated attitude, again, I believe that, I suppose, ends up as a result of what we've just talked about. Okay, affected by others. Now we're really entering into the mental toughness piece, okay? If I deep down have a lack of self-esteem, a lack of confidence, if I doubt myself a lot, okay? Of course, I'm going to be affected by others. Okay, this is where we can do a drill another day. We'll just very briefly, I suppose, if we talk about the friend circle. Okay, we can make a very small circle on our page or whatever size, and we might put 2 or 3 of our closest friends. As I do say, the one that you know that if you rang at any time you were going to get, they'll be there for you. Okay, that's who you put in there. But then you make the next ring. It could be people that you work with, associates, and so on. Okay, it may be people that are. They're friends and all, you talk sometimes, you may be the friend that sends memes here and there on Instagram and so on, but there's never really a solid conversation. Okay, this is when you know you start to wake up in life, that you no longer have these small talk conversations. There's meaningful conversations happening. Okay, they're the friends that we look at in there. They may even be your teammates. They may be just, you're not friends with everybody in your team. Okay, there may be plenty of people in that circle that you're not too sure if you trust. Okay. And then I suppose some of you may have a much bigger outside ring, okay? And in that, They genuinely may be, if you're self-employed, they could be just acquaintances. You are connected somehow. They may buy something off you. You may purchase off them. They may be in your gym and so on. And you mightn't go and list, but you necessarily, once you nail these two, we know what we're talking about, okay? So my point in saying this is we really should only ever be affected by people inside that circle. And you will notice that we talk about that in the adrenaline, that them individuals understand that everything outside of that core group, okay, is not important. So that's the big thing you got to do. You got to really nail it yourself. Do your own friend chart. Ask yourself those questions, okay? Like that. Who could I ring and tell that I killed someone, okay? Who would I trust with something I had to get off my chest, and so on. And remember as well, some of you are so afraid to chance it, you kind of have to learn the hard way as well. It is the best lessons. Don't be afraid to fail. You may have told someone and you messed up, but you'll know for the future. Recognize the traits of that individual the next time, okay? That's what you're looking for. And again, when you listen to your gut, you'll have all those answers. So we shy away from confrontation. This is going to be the biggest one that you're ever going to challenge, because what it does is you're trying to get aligned, okay? We talked about being living in the present. I want to give you one scenario and a very simple visual tool. Somebody is going from point A to point B. Adrenaline people will go straight through it, okay, without stopping, okay? What you have to start remembering is they have certain behaviors, okay? If they set something very strong in their mind, number one, they stick to their own word, okay? It doesn't matter about anybody else. They say something, they will finish it. Again, what is that? It's a habit. It's a behavior they adopt, okay? Somebody in the cortisol traits, what do? Okay, they're going from A to B, and they go, oh no, I'm going to go this way. And then they might take a backward step, and then they get back on track, and they see somebody perhaps throws them off. Okay, they go again, and they're gone. And it's always this big winding road all the time. But a lot of the time, they never get to B. If you avoid confrontation, I need you to imagine this, that you are now going this direction. Okay, you are gone so far away. You're now moving laterally in life. You're bullied easily. You're affected by others. You never take control. You never speak your mind. You suppress all the time. You develop thyroid problems. You develop stomach problems, and so on. Okay, this is where it's all connected. Potential suicide thoughts. We mentioned it. We should have. In regards to an end result, an extreme case of bad behaviors and bad habits, poor company. Okay, and not having enough respect for yourself at the end of the day. Okay, speaking so negatively about your mindset that you convince yourself that you are worth nothing. Okay, this is the important piece. We tend to quit. It's a pure habit, guys. We need to start with the basic. Start it out. If you're on the floor, well then it's like, for the next 7 days, I'm going to drink a glass of water every morning. Okay, for the next 7 days, I'm going to walk for 15 minutes. I'm going to try my hardest for the next 7 days to eliminate one bad thing in my day. Okay, I'm going to try stop drinking 4 coffees a day. I'm going to bring it to 2. I might want to cut the cigarettes back. You have to identify these things in your life. So again, a side project for you right now, if you want to pause the video, is out you go somewhere onto another page, write down my bad habits. Okay, and on that page, that's what you're looking to do. Identify them first. You cannot improve it if you don't understand what they are. Okay. The main emotion is fear. It's obvious. Everything we've just talked about is fear related. Okay. Never switch off. That can be an easy one. Some of us don't switch off. That's fine. But the adrenaline person is working from a different level of never switch off. They are moving forward. They should be, at least. Okay. It's a trait that you see in successful people. They're on to the next project. They get to the end. They give themselves a little tap on the back. They acknowledge that behavior. Let's go again. Okay. However, the fear-based people, they never switch off, but they're going nowhere. And nowhere fast. It's literally Groundhog Day. Okay, they cannot calm the mind enough to focus. So take your time out, ground yourself once a day. Could be 3 times a day for some people. Okay, as long as you just take that minute, as I said, that big reset breath. Simple as that. That's what you're looking to do. Just stop for a minute. Do nothing. If you're struggling, just stop. That's all you have to do. Just take a little bit of acceptance, maybe, that you might have to do. Where am I at right now? Goal setting again. Remember, where am I going? Where do I want to go? How will I know when I get there? All of this type of stuff. We're looking the next one. We talk about poor ability to see things through. Again, and I just a horrendous habit that I see all the time in people who worry, and I have categorized as cortisol. They say they're going to do a 30-second effort. Okay, they always stop 5 seconds out. 10 reps, they stop 1 rep short, and that continues everywhere. Their diet, they're going well from Monday to Friday. Saturday, Sunday's a mess. I'm doing so well all day, and then when I get home, I end up pigging out. Do you hear the behavior? Okay, you have to listen and understand the behavior. You are telling yourself these things. NLP, you've got to change all of that again, change the behavior. Okay, it's affirmations. You just flip it on its head. Instead of saying, I go so well from Monday to Friday and I crash on Saturday and Sunday every time. You've already done it and you don't even realize. You've already said you're going to do it. Okay, so you say, this week, I'm going to be as good as I am from Monday to Friday. And I'm going to change my behavior on Saturday. I'm going to have one nice thing. And then I'm going to make sure that I do a little exercise on Sunday morning. And again, I might have one breakout. Okay? It's not going to be a free-for-all. These are tiny habits that you have to identify with. Poor breathing patterns is going to happen from any overthinking. Remember this, you cannot think and breathe correctly at the same time. Very simple. You can visualize and breathe correctly because it's a different association altogether. But you cannot consciously think and then breathe at the same time. So what we have to realize is 95% of what we do is unconscious. So we're talking about the poor breathing, okay? And 5% is conscious. If we're learning a new behavior, okay? So we're just writing the 5%, so you associate that with the conscious behavior, okay? And the 95% is unconscious, okay? So here we have the 4 stages, okay, of learning something. Again, this is coming in now because all of these things, when we go from this point to this point, will allow us to have much better behavior. Okay, so what I'll do is from here, it's a conscious incompetence. Okay, we can't physically do it no matter how hard we try. It's a new task, we're not able to do it. We move up along, we're practicing for a few weeks, you're trying your exercises. Now we come very simply to conscious competence. Okay, it's becoming much easier now. Still have to think about it, but I don't have to think as much as I did before. Okay, so I can get that little bit more going back to what we talked about, our past, present, and future. Okay, we can get just a little bit more into the present, simple as. Okay, now we move on then, and then it becomes unconscious. Okay, but it's still incompetent, so you can't fully do it yet without having to think. Okay, and then finally, the obvious, okay, it's unconscious, okay, competence. So, everything, again, we talked about these habits and traits. A successful person unconsciously does not have to think about the behaviors every time they enter a new difficult setting. They're like conscious, they go, yeah, I've been here before, and so on, if that's a very difficult time. But 95% of the time, for them, it literally just goes unconscious, I just react this way. Okay, if they know the process. If you have got on and you've done any long set, for example, it was an hour session on a cardio and it was at a specific, as I talk about, these heart rate zones, okay, and we look at a chart, all right, the anxiety level is climbing, okay, from 0 to 100, or let's call it the effort, but with that effort is going to come an anxious feeling, a fear, a worry. It's like, I don't like this, okay, I have my red line, remember, okay, my red line is here, and that is what we call that lactate threshold. So you can see now all of a sudden, like 1 minute we're talking about the behavior, but this is what we're going to do to develop our mental toughness. You may just be an extremely mentally weak person because you've done all these habits. We probably don't really know the truth, but as I said, this is the way we're going to be working on it anyways, okay? Again, if it's 0 to 60, okay, in minutes, okay, you can change your mindset and also realize that the 0 to 60 could be a year, it could be a month, it could be a year, it could be 2 or 3 years of hardship, okay? It could be something hanging over you all that time, and you have to learn to just do the simple bit. You don't have to go crazy, you just have to show up every single day and try your best to adopt the behavior. Yes, the voice in your head might win some days, but you just acknowledge that, look, it's okay, but I'm going to minimize it, okay? So again, a 60-minute session, like that cross-trainer one we did, or get on a rowing machine, you're going for a period of time. It doesn't have to be 60 minutes, by the way. It can be a 2K effort on a rower as hard as you can physically go, okay? holding a decent pace. But what happens is the effort is climbing, which is my heart rate now, okay? It might reach a peak, I might start to slow down and it might go off, and then I want to make one more push. But the point is, when I live on this threshold here, okay, when I am struggling on that threshold, that is exactly when every one of these habits are going to come out, okay? Main emotion is fear, okay? Panic attacks, all of these things. I've seen people crying doing cardio, okay? The ability to switch off, okay, during that period of time, understanding that process. So if you never, like we talk about it, but it's used too much. If you've never actually done a session to test and get out of your comfort zone. So if you say, I always train for 60 minutes in my local classes, I'm going to try and go and do the 60 this time, but I'm going up and I'm going to burn 500 calories. Now all of a sudden it's a new behavior, a new habit, and you're going to find these new zones and you're going to elevate yourself to the next level. And that's a lot of, we will do another one on that specifically. Come back here, again, we keep moving through these. Pick up niggling injuries. Again, it's a result of bad behaviors, of tension, of stress in the body. Tissue is contracting, blood flow is very poor, and the breathing is absolutely terrible, okay? All results. Broken sleep, side effect again of all of these behaviors. Can't switch the mind off, okay? I'm not able to unwind. I may need sleep habits. I may need to unwind a little bit earlier before. Turn off the phone maybe, okay? Again, we'll share a lot of these things as we're working through these programs. But all of these different routines that you might need to change your behavior, okay? Stop trying to watch a film or a telly and then you're expected. Again, it takes a special individual who would be mentally tough to be able to just do that and go from here to zero, just like that. That is the goal, by the way. The adrenaline people tend to have that. The high achieving individuals, the special forces people can turn it on and turn it off in a split second. That's the skill, because you develop emotional intelligence. That's the one trait you're going to see in the adrenaline phase. Can blame others. Again, we've talked about this. 100% habit. A decision you make all the time. Am I going this way or am I going this way? Am I going to look at me or will I go that way? It's very, very simple when you break it down. But at the time, it can be difficult because why? You're dealing with emotion. If you put the emotion aside and we get very factual, again, it's something you have to develop, a habit you have to do. It's why the elite don't make mistakes in certain parts. Okay, they can compartmentalize their brain to say, put that aside. Let's look at this. It's a habit you will develop over time. Worry what others think. Again, it comes back to the mental toughness. We've discussed this a bit. Poor focus. Again, poor focus comes from all of these things. Every time you're not here ever. You're not living in the present. You're in the future. You're worrying about the past. You're never in the present. Okay, so again, you're not physically tuning into your breath. This is why a lot of people get sucked into doing a lot of breath work. So they're trying to focus. They're trying to get that present moment. However, I will throw in, and I always do, the addictive behavior. Doing it 7 and 8 and 10 times a week, it's not good. It is extreme behavior now, okay? And we have to figure out, why do we possibly need to do that so much? That's what we need to be careful of. And also, you have to remember the cold water stuff. If you're doing that 7 days a week, you are stressing your nervous system. It does not need that much stimulus all the time. You can potentially burn out your adrenal glands also. Poor focus, shy. I suppose that's something you develop over time. Something may have happened when you're younger. Your unconscious behavior, again, the 95%. It stores all your memories. The role of the unconscious mind is to store all your memories. It organizes them. It dates them from start to finish. It puts them all in order for you. Okay. It also hides them for you because the actual unconscious mind is there to protect the body and, number one, keep you alive. That's its number one role. So anything that doesn't serve you well, it will take it. It will bury it to the back of the head. Okay. That's literally what will happen. And you then have to go and that's what people do in counselling. It starts to all come forward all of a sudden, okay? Because they're going deeper every time. They're being asked very good questions to take them down, okay? Take them down certain routes. That's basically what the idea is. Again, just on the unconscious piece, your behaviours are unconscious. You may be doing certain behaviours and you've no idea. You may argue the same way with someone every time because you don't see the behaviour. Every time you enter this zone, you react like this and so on, okay? It's all unconscious. And again, you have to remember, it's not your fault. It's protective mechanism. All right. Your body is doing it to protect yourself. That's the number one thing you need to realize. But you also have to address it. And now we're on to this decision again. Do you play on that or do you not? Okay. Is this your story and you're never going to really let go? You keep talking about it, or are you going to make sure that this is gone and you head the other way? Okay. You always have to think of that. This darkness into light type stuff. So stress over small things. Again, it's a poor ability to focus, a poor ability to compartmentalize your thoughts. Habits and behaviors, I believe, again, that keep happening, but also a lack of resilience. You're not able to just root yourself in mayhem. Okay, I always remember, different teams talking about it's their ability that when things were getting cagey, they had a set little routine. It was a one-call thing. Everybody recognized. What was it? It became slightly unconscious then. It triggered a memory or triggered some form of plan in their head that when this happens and we say this, we lock in. Okay. Just on that, to change a habit, some small things, I don't personally do them, but I've seen different things. Like if you had an elastic band on the wrist, it's a very fine line now between getting a twitch and it keeps you calm, but really you're banging this all day long. Or it could be like a little a mini punishment almost, that you catch yourself. So it's called pattern interrupt. So you go to do something, you catch yourself talking negative, and you slap that and pinch and reset. So every time you go to do that, if you can do that, or if you have friends around you, that's the idea. You try catch each other when you're doing that type of stuff. And again, now you see very quickly how important it is, going back to the friends thing, making sure that group doesn't condone that behavior and consistently makes you just do what you want, okay? Accepting it. Struggle with self-esteem, it's obvious, okay? It's up to you to ask them questions. Why though? First of all, what parts of my life do I struggle with it? And then why? Okay, that's what you got to do. You got to try and ask that. And it won't come straight away. You have to just go a little bit deeper and spend a bit of time on these questions. Let them ponder around your head, because the answer is in the unconscious mind. That's what you got to remember, okay? We will do a lot more on that stuff in separate videos. Nervous, again, a result, is it maybe, of what happened when you're younger? An unconscious, as I said, I know this is going to sound so repetitive, but you have to remember that everything, okay, becomes unconscious. If you get up at the same time because you work at 9 and you do the same routine over and over, it's called a trance. And then it's until you break that trance and say, we love routine. But like I said, there's a very fine line between a routine and almost Groundhog Day. Okay, so we ask ourselves, we keep ourselves conscious. The more times you can come into this behavior means you're learning something new. Okay, so to just clear something up, the conscious piece is because it was new. That's all. All right. Myself and all the coaches can do all of this behavior as regards to exercises unconsciously. We don't have to think anymore. When we walk into a gym, the information is there, the knowledge is there to do this. Right now, if you're recognizing that you're in those cortisol, you just don't have the knowledge, number one. You just haven't committed to it long enough. You may struggle with commitment. So you can see how it just constantly keeps looping itself back. We're nearly there on this one. Dwelling on passing comments. Personally, you have to be affected by something in general. There has to be something deep down there that's getting triggered. Okay. Otherwise, if you knew what you're doing is good, or you're firm with your decision from a non-reactive stage. So what I mean by that is, don't stand firm with your heart rate through the roof because you're fighting an external stimulus, because you aren't able to be vulnerable. And then the opposite would be, deep down that you didn't do the work on a specific part of your game, and when it's exposed in real life, you're done, you're gone. You won't. You didn't do the work. So it's simple as that. You go for a job interview, you didn't prepare for it, they ask you a question, okay? Simple as. Procrastinate, every single person does it. Again, it's because it's that voice in your head, and I'm always going to come back to that. This is why you do these sessions. You become extremely strong at sticking to your word. I'm going out, I'm going to do 1,000 calories on a machine in 60 minutes, no matter what. You're going to hit stages throughout this and you will crash, and you have to keep pushing and keep saying no. And you will go through, like in your early days of all that stuff, it's not nice. It is horrific. But I promise you, it represents these 3-month periods, these 6-month periods. And the next time you enter that stage, remember we talked about confrontation, you get comfortable there. You understand it. It doesn't take the same effect on you anymore. Your heart rate doesn't rise anymore. Okay, you're experienced because you've put the time in. It's as simple as that. Hyper then very low. Again, it can be an energy thing in my mind. You could be very receptive. You could be very in tune. You're picking up on different external energies in the room. If you're spiritual and things like that, that's the line you could talk about. I said it's number one for me, to be honest. That's what I really believe in. Again, what does that mean? Come back to the present. Everything is coming back to what I said at the start. Okay, the mind, the gut, and so on. Grounding yourself, There's a reason, again, things get taken for extreme, but there is a reason why if you take your shoes off, you feel a little calmer. Okay, if you go out walking on the grass, you feel calmer. We don't know what it is. I mean, there's lots of stuff out there to show there is energy in the ground and it comes up. So these are little things you can do all the time to ground yourself into focus. Okay, you may just need to lie on a floor, get comfortable, and let that weight go. Don't fight anything, just switch off completely. From an injury perspective, people always tend to come in the door saying, I've tried everything. You may have genuinely tried everything and they just weren't good enough or they didn't know what was wrong with you, 100%. But there is always the individual, again, on the extreme level that blames everybody else. And they wait and they expected everyone else to fix the problem. And when they're handed the sheet to say, you need to do this, they quit the plan. So it's a very fine line, guys. And you better make sure that you're not in that later one. You have to take control. The reason I suppose you're watching this video is because you're in that category. Okay, you've came through a longer term project. You chose to put a commitment to say, no, I'm willing to learn as much as I can. So I'm sure you're not in that anymore. Again, we talked about tend to think they're a victim. It'll destroy you. It's as simple as that. I could spend all day on it. I could do a whole new video on it. It's just an attitude you have to make a decision on. When it gets tough, which way are you going to go? If you break it down, it doesn't become complicated. And the last one on this sheet would be doubt themselves. Okay. So they're all the cortisol traits. We're going to keep them separate from the adrenaline ones because the adrenaline is a very different stimulus. But I just will clear up before we link on to the next one. You may be an adrenaline person and say, like what I'm trying to say is, I know I'd be a high adrenaline person naturally, okay, but of course I worried. Of course I do still worry. Of course I might mildly think and worry about what someone else said, but what I'm trying to say is because the amount of habits, traits and commitment was put in, it's like I'm about to get a fear stimulus. So a train of thought happens. Okay, think of it. So a little simple stick man. Okay, the train of thought comes in. So I see something here visually. The external stimulus comes in. Okay, I might be listening to something. Okay, on a set of headphones, or I remember something. Okay, so it's stored in that unconscious mind maybe. Okay, and those three stimulus. I'm trying to think if I'm missing that. No, so any of those stimuluses is basically going to trigger a thought which will ricochet through, that 12th cranial nerve, which some of you may not know, it finishes in the stomach. But every piece of tissue and organ that hits on the way down will inhibit that area. Okay, so as I said, it's that thing of 5 minutes of anger will affect the nervous system for 4 hours and so on. So once we get that into our head, that I got to stop certain things. So if I'm scrolling and I follow someone and every time they pop up a post, it triggers me, okay? Then that is what I'll finish on. We'll do it in another video. Identifying your triggers, okay, is going to prevent a lot of this behavior. Working on yourself, after all, means that when you go out into all of this external stimulus, it's easy, okay? It just doesn't affect you anymore. But there is no doubt about it. If you're heavily in this area, you do have a lot of work to do. You do have a lot of habits to change. And I guess the questions you got to know now is, for the next stage, I give you 5 examples here. Okay, so you can get your sheet now. As I said again, you can pause the video and this will be your task to finish on. So I've just picked out some of the traits from it. You've just been educated on how you end up in a position where you have a panic attack. So you trace it back. What were the things you didn't address at the time? Or how did you end up with it in that very low period? And usually, you have to address the basics of, your sleep, your nutrition, again, the negative self-talk, all of that stuff. So them little habits that kept mounting up to put you in such a hole. Again, we'll actually pop it up on screen now, the emotional chart. So we have the spiraling down on the right. You can see that it starts with boredom and it just keeps going all the way. Okay, you have to end up making your way the whole way to proper frustration and anger and all of these things that you'll meet on the way down. So now you got a little task again of going, how much do you live on the right hand side of this chart, or how much do you live on the left? And then the left, as I said, is the obvious. It's the opposite, love and hate. It really is when you break it down. How many times a week in your mind do you try and get one back on someone? Do you focus on that, or do you focus and say, no, I'm done, I'm going to send out a bit of, I'm going to radiate out love, I'm not going to radiate out any bad, and so on. So that's a really good chart. I said for you to take your time and go through it, and it should be a very strong visual for you to just understand, I seriously have to change my behaviour. So again, the next time you think about playing victim, make the conscious decision, go and stop wondering why you end up very sick. Well, you've just lived 6 months in that on the right instead of trying to work on the left. So we come back then to this, basically. Now what you need to do is identify your traits, get a big page, map it out on a board this size, whatever you need to do, okay? And people say, yeah, I worry a lot. I'm like, about what? And they answer everything. And I'll say it is just a terrible answer because it's too vague. It means you're never conscious of any kind. You're just away with the fairies, as I do say all the time. So you really need to go now and spider diagram off that, okay? I won't go through them here. Some people list some of them. Some people say, I worry about my kids or whatever, you know, how they'll be in the future. You can't control what's in the future, but you can only control, again, the present, what you're educating them now, the energy you put out to them, how you, the resilience you teach them, the mindset you teach them, the example you are. I've had fathers in who are the biggest worriers of all time. They're so nervous. Their kids are going to pick up on that energy. That's what you have to tune into. You have to focus on that big time. Bullied easily. Why? Do you ever push yourself out of your comfort zone? Is there lots of insecure things? Address them. Get them out. Why? You know, maybe you could put insecure down here as well. That'd be another one. And you really need to go through them. Flesh them out. Okay. If you lie to yourself, I would just say switch the video off and forget about it, and don't come back and address this again. If you're not honest when you're doing this, there is no way it's going to improve. Okay. The tend to quit. Again, you really have to address it. It's going to be a behavior, and it comes back to the chart we did earlier. And we just simply said that the minute it just comes to that point, and it's like if you take one more step forward, you're through. You break through that glass, as I said, and you'll never kind of return to that level again. So again, these behaviors have to be changed. Negative mindset. I mean, you could do a side note here. This is another little task that'll come directly from this. During this week, try and tune into the way you talk, okay? The stuff that comes out of your mouth. If you're in training and you're with someone and they're about to say, well, I put on 10 more. And just like that, you go, I won't lift that. There is your negative mindset and self-talk. So you're telling yourself all these affirmations all the time. You're telling yourself, oh, I always get sick at a certain period of the year, and so on. So you create and you manifest an awful lot of this stuff. So your mind is a lot stronger than you think. They never switch off. And the same thing, it kind of comes back to this worrying piece. What do you be struggling about? When you go to bed at night, what are them couple of thoughts that are in your head? I never had to do it personally again. A lot of people do. They get up, they physically sit and write. But I do, again, worry, being honest. I am a high adrenaline person, but somebody has to do that all the time. Still not really getting somewhere. You've just found something to fix it for now. And that is great and all, but understand that if you want to get to that next level, you got to get to a point where you don't have to do that. You have an ability in your head to switch off and go, yeah, okay, I must do that tomorrow. And again, you're training your brain more. And that's something that I believe in. If you constantly make notes that you write down, it is brilliant. It's actually great. Like, it's something I don't do, but yeah, there's times I might forget something, but a lot of the time you're working your brain a little bit more as well. Okay, so that's just my take on that. Procrastinating, try and figure out where. Is it an early morning? You say again. So I mentioned earlier about sticking to your own word. So if you make a commitment, you say, no, I'm getting up at 6:30, I'm going to do something. It can't be based on motivation, because the motivation will be gone in the morning. Okay, so get a bigger purpose, but most of all, stick to your word. It is just, as cringe as it sounds, it is you against you in that sense. And when you learn to go and follow through, you develop an unbelievable habit again. It just is a habit. If you start to break the habit, it's too easy to fall back. You just may have, it could take 2 years for you to finally say, I remember I used to do this. Okay, you can't just say you've done it for a month and then you slip back into your old behavior. So that is your task for this section. All of these negative traits that are affecting your tissue quality, the warriors of the world, as I said, get them down on paper. Experience depression, probably, that particular one there, you may write it down. There may be times, but I don't think that's important. I think the important piece was fixing all of these, and then you won't be ending up in them situations. So again, thanks a million. Take your time going through all of that, and flesh it out as in detail as possible.